Hello everyone, my name is Kenton Kivestu. I'm an ex-BCG consultant, an ex-Googler, and the founder of RocketBlocks, which is an online platform that helps students prepare for job interviews. In today's RocketBlocks mini lesson, we're going to discuss a really great and I think fun question that someone asked me recently, which was, if I'm going to start as an associate at a top consulting firm in the next 3 months, what books should I read to prepare? And I think this is a great question because there is just a ton of really good knowledge you can get from reading deeply and broadly on a lot of topics. So it's a great way to prepare for starting a new job. It's also just a great thing to do as you're going through the interview process. It's not uncommon for partners, principals, etc., especially in the second round interviews, to ask you after the case, what are you reading these days? And so there's a lot of good insight that you can get out of these books, and it also is going to give you some interesting discussion material for interviews as well. So my approach to answering this question is, rather than go through a laundry list of different business books that you can read, what I'd like to do is actually sit back and think about what skills are going to be most important in a consulting career. And what books could you read that will help kind of reinforce important lessons about those skills? And so what I want to focus on are fundamental business principles, leadership, teamwork, salesmanship, and hustle and passion. And so I'm going to go through those different topics and recommend one book in each topic. Now, there's a ton of good stuff you can read on each, but we don't have all the time in the world, so I'm just going to do one recommendation in each. So let's go ahead and jump in. First topic, business fundamentals. So my recommendation in this category is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is a behavioral economist that essentially is one of the few economists that basically invented this whole subsection of economics. And I think it's an incredibly important sector of economics to understand because it's the first one that started to put together theory and evidence about why people act the way they act. A lot of traditional economic models just basically assume that people act rationally. And the reality is that most of the time they are definitely not acting rationally. So this is actually a field that's starting to explain why people are acting the way they act. What are the different types of biases they have, cognitive biases, recency bias, etc., loss aversion. There's a ton of great material in this book. And I like it because, especially as someone that's going to be a consultant in the future, it provides a lot of mental models to think about why are people making decisions the way they're making decisions. What explains how people are thinking and how people are acting. Both useful in terms of consumer businesses and thinking about how people are acting within a business that you're working with. So great book, a ton of great insights in it, and a very fun read. Second category is teamwork. And the book that I want to highlight in this category is called The Boys in the Boat. It's by Daniel Brown, and it's about the University of Washington men's U.S. rowing team as they're preparing for the 1936 Berlin Olympics. And the reason I really like this story, especially for someone that's going into the field of consulting and thinking about it, is that consulting is a team sport. And in my mind, there are very few sports that are as team-oriented as crew. And that's because you really win and lose as a boat, and it's not a sport that does a good job of highlighting any individual abilities. It's really about the team and how the team coalesces. And this book in particular does such a nice job going into detail about the individual people that made up this team, their personal struggles, the sacrifices that they had to make for the team and in their personal life, and the mechanics of how that team over time gels together and what works and doesn't work and how the coach is involved and how the captain of the team steps up and each person plays their role in various situations. So it's really nice detail about the mechanics of how a team comes together, gels, and ultimately achieves something incredible. Also, it's very beautifully written and it's relatively short. I think it's about 300 pages. So it's a quick, easy read, and there's a ton of great lessons in there. The third category I want to talk about is leadership. And this is one, there's a million books that are written on this topic. There's a ton of stuff you could go out there and read. The one that I want to highlight in this case is one called The Last Lion. It's by a guy named William Manchester, and it is a biography of Winston Churchill. Now, the reason I recommend this book is because everyone knows the kind of highlight reel of Winston Churchill's career. They know the bits from World War II on, the role he played in rallying, the Allies and Britain against the Axis powers, and it's a great story. And there's a ton of incredible stuff there. But the reason I really like this book is this is a man that demonstrated incredible leadership in his life. But most of his life leading up to that World War II period that we know about was not a string of successes. It was more a string of failures, ridicule, shame. I mean, he got booted out of Parliament, I think, multiple times. His dad, for a long time when he was growing up, thought he was a failure. He wasn't good in school. He ended up going to military school because he couldn't get into any other types of school at the time. I mean, this was not a man that was destined for greatness his whole career. And I think what's so impressive and why the story is phenomenal is that you see a man that demonstrates a lot of grit and resilience and heart, even in the face of a lot of setbacks, and ultimately, obviously, achieves incredible success. And, we all really benefited from that, obviously. So I think that is a really, really great read. One caveat is, just a heads up, it is quite long. It's actually a 3-part series, and each part's about 1,000 pages. So, maybe budget some time or, pick up one of the books, read part of it, but they all are quite good, especially the first 2 in the series. So definitely recommend checking that one out. Fourth category I want to talk about is hustle and passion. This is a category that I think is important, again, for folks going into consulting, but entering any career. Building a successful career is a ton of work, and some of it will be glamorous, but a lot of it is just going to be hard work and grit and determination and slogging through some stuff and just keep going. And so the book that I really like in this category is a book called Decoded. It is the autobiography of Jay-Z, the famous hip-hop artist, businessman, I think now philanthropist. And it's just an incredible story of his upbringing and what he went through to be able to pursue his passion of music. And it was not easy. This is not a man that was born with every advantage. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Born in the projects, I think born to a single mother, was trying to support himself and his family for much of his adolescence by selling drugs. And there's just an incredible amount of kind of grit and hustle that you see him demonstrate over the first kind of 15, 20 years of his career to actually get where he is today and what he's achieved. And a lot of just interesting detail about what that's like, and how tough it can be when you're going through it, how hard it is to just keep going when it feels like things aren't working out and when it feels like the deck is stacked against you. So a really great read on just hustle and doing something because you are passionate in it, and eventually, seeing that payoff. Fifth category, salesmanship. The book I want to highlight in this category is called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. in my mind, this is the quintessential book on how to be a good salesman, because it's not any sort of fancy techniques or pipeline strategies, etc. It's really a book about human psychology and how to understand how to work with people and how to influence them, and also make friends with those people. That, like, ultimately, if you can drive a sales process where you are making friends and influencing people, you are going to have the success that you want. So this is an incredible book, very fun read, but you don't even have to take my word for it. I think Warren Buffett said about this book that it changed his life. So pretty good endorsement there. If you don't believe me, take Warren Buffett's word for it. Great book, full of good lessons, and particularly if you are thinking about making a long-term career about consulting. I think one of the things that very few people think when they're initially going into the career is that as you move up the ladder, the job does become more and more about driving sales for the business. Partners ultimately need to bring in projects and cases for the business, and that is a type of sales role. So these type of lessons can be very helpful as you're moving up that career ladder. Okay, so that's my list. I can honestly say, after having done that this is now the toughest video I've made because of the number of books and recommendations I had to cut out to get it down to that list. So as a bonus, I'm going to throw in a few more, and then I might even put a few more links in the description below. But to keep it short, we're just going to do two more, and that is, we're talking about, books that are going to help you as you go into a career in consulting. This is kind of part of the elite business world. So there are two other people that I think are incredible business leaders, and they're not the recent kind of stars of today. Like, these are people that have been around now for decades, proving year after year why they're so good at what they do. And they have a lot of great writing. And those two people are, one, Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway, and two, Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Both of these guys write their annual shareholder letters, and if you haven't read any of them yet, they are full of insights, just completely jam-packed of great insights about the businesses they run and what they've seen over the years, markets, investing, everything. There's advice about life in there as well. And they both write with a lot of clarity and simplicity. And better yet, you can find all this stuff for free. So I've got links in the description to every book I mentioned, as well as the catalogs, the online catalogs of the letters of Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett as well. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. We've got more great videos on the consulting interview process and career path coming out weekly. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so below. There's a big red button below. So you can click that to subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.